Welcome back to SquawkBox. A big weekend for deals. A nearly $43 billion deal in the medical device industry, and Medtronic is buying Ireland-based Covidien. Joining us now to talk more about that deal, former Medtronic chief and now Harvard business professor, Bill George. Good morning to you, Bill.
Morning, Andrew.
So, Bill, here's my question for you. And you put out a blog last night, and I read it. You have come out historically against a lot of these inversions. So the Pfizer-AstraZeneca transaction, for example, I think you're probably against the Valeant-Allergan deal, perhaps for similar reasons, and yet you seem to be for this particular deal. Why?
Well, Andrew, I think Rob Kindler said it well. Is there intrinsic value? In this case, it's a totally friendly deal. Joe Almeida, the CEO of Covidien, actually approached Omar Ishrak at Medtronic, is my understanding. It's got a perfect strategic fit. They just fit like a glove here, and it's going to have great value for earnings per share and everything else. And Medtronic is planning to use Covidien to greatly broaden its position, to enhance its R&D, to spend more. But the issue is, to finance the deal, they have some $13–14 billion in cash trapped overseas, and they wanted to free that up to use that because that's money that's earning 1% or less. And I think a lot of companies are faced out. There's some $2.5 trillion trapped. So they were looking for ways to do that, and this became a vehicle for financing. But that's like number 5 on the list. So I'm very much in favor of it for that reason. And I think the real issue here, if you want to correct that, is you need to allow companies to repatriate their taxes. Right. Now, Andrew, ironically, Medtronic's doing something fairly unusual here. They've said they're going to commit an additional $10 billion to innovation over and above their strategic plans, because they see opportunities to do that here, and they've been feeling a little constrained in R&D, so this will give them a lot more money to do it with.
But historically, you have been critical of inversions, so I'm trying to understand why this one is somehow different.
It's different because they're not doing it for tax savings. Look, in one other deal, the Pfizer is looking to cut their tax. In this case, Medtronic's tax rate's already 18%. Since the 1970s, Medtronic has been doing tax advantage deals, first in Puerto Rico. We did a big one in Switzerland, then we bought AVE in Ireland. So that's not unusual. I think it's our obligation to find the overall most appropriate tax rate for your shareholders. But it's not to escape taxes. Medtronic's going to pay the 18%. Covidien's rate's about the same. It's fluctuating at about the same rate. So there's no tax rate savings. But I think it gives the company the ability to free up its cash flow and to use it efficiently to invest in our innovation.
Real quick, Bill, you recognize that they don't have to do it as an inversion then? Meaning, if it's really not about the tax rate, you could still technically buy the company without the actual inversion process of relocating the headquarters and benefiting from whatever the resulting shift is in changing the status of where the headquarters is.
I think you probably understand this better than I do, Andrew, but my understanding is they actually do have to do the inversion. Note that they're going to generate about $7 billion in free cash flow, and a lot of that's going to be overseas. One of Omar's big plans is to expand geographically in emerging markets. Covidien gives them another $5 billion in international markets, and there will be that ongoing $7 billion plus a year of free cash flow. That also would be trapped, and I think they have to have a way to continue to do that on an ongoing basis.
To get those numbers, you need to do the inversion. That's why he's saying they have to do it. Hey, Bill. The old Medtronic, I remember those, they're like they're defibrillators, implantable defibrillators, and I'm looking at your business, at the company's business mix now. It's down to 30% for cardiac rhythm. I assume that's pacemakers and defibrillators. That's a lot less. The company's already diversified away from being so dependent on that single product.
Well, you're absolutely right, Joe, but this fits perfectly with the mission. When I came there,
this diversifies it quite a bit more, and I understand that with Covidien in a lot of areas, because you do the neuromodulation now, and you still do stents, obviously, but it looks like this would help Medtronic, which there was a time when those defibrillators, that was too big a business, wasn't it, or too big a part of Medtronic's business, Bill?
Yeah, I saw that back in '96, Joe. That's why we got into soft organic and spine, and we got into mini-med and diabetes. And we had a weak position in vascular. We were like third, and we had to get to the #1 position. But you're right, Joe. This gets us. See, Medtronic's whole strategy is how do you use engineering to implant devices inside people? For now, it's expanding into GI. It's into the neural brain, the peripheral vascular, all the arteries. Right. And so that's the whole strategy. That's why I say it's a perfect fit. And I really admire Omar Ishrak's courage to go for this big a deal. I'm not sure I would have thought the company would have gone for a $40 billion plus deal. And
I can't believe
but
Tyco,
it does exactly what you're saying.
I can't believe Tyco had something worth $40 billion. They had a bunch of other stuff too.
They did.
I looked at it as Tyco when it was Kozlowski, man, and I wouldn't. But, you know, I liked the business. I didn't like that culture.
Man, he would have had an even bigger party if he knew it was worth $42 billion.
You got to credit.
He might have.
Yeah. You got to credit Covidien for making a quality company out of it. I went out and did a leadership program a couple of years ago, and I tell you, it's a whole different company today. And
Bill
it wasn't
George,
Tyco.
Thank you for your insight this morning.
Thank you for having me on the show.